Good morning, Ms. Kozak. Can you please state your name, spell your last for the record?
Good morning. My name is Amy Kozak, Kosack.
Ms. Kozak, who do you do for a living?
Currently, I'm working at the Red Hawk Animal Sanctuary in Oxford, Ohio. So I work as an animal caretaker and trainer.
Now, what made you interested in working with animals?
When I was a little girl, I used to visit my grandma in Australia over the summers, and she worked on a preserve. And through her work and just being with her, I got to experience a lot of different kinds of animals and really get in touch with them and bond connections. And it made me realize that my true gifts and my calling was to work with animals and be a part of the beautiful life that is in our world. So yeah.
Can you tell the world a little bit about your professional history before you?
I received my bachelor's degree in animal sciences from the University of Florida, and then I worked for the Cincinnati Zoo until about 2003, when I decided to start my own animal sanctuary here in the Netherlands.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that animal sanctuary?
So I wanted this sanctuary to be a place where we could take in abandoned animals, abused animals, animals who needed a safe place that they could come to and be cared for. Really just create an environment that these animals could thrive in. And so I did this, and also I trained with the animals to appear on media and TV performances.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the training you did for these media appearances?
So animals being animals, I always started by trying to convince them to do the trick naturally. So by nodding my head along with the chimpanzee to get him to nod his head along. And then every time that they did the trick correctly, I would reward them with a treat, continuous reinforcement. And then we would transition to fixed ratio reinforcement, giving them a treat every second time or fourth time that they did a trick. This was pretty standard in the animal training field.
Were there any other things you did, other types of training you utilized when you prepared animals for appearances?
So TV sets can be kind of loud, busy places. So I wanted to make sure that my animals would be as comfortable as possible. So I would expose them to bright lights, noises, lots of people, music, so that they could become accustomed to the types of environments that they might experience while performing on set.
Now, Ms. Kozak, can you please speak to the court a little bit about Elias the chimpanzee?
I got Elias in 2013 from a sanctuary in South Carolina. He had previously come from Uganda. When I received him, he was about 6 years old. Elias was an amazing chimpanzee. We had such a close bond and connection, and it made the training feel just so simple and easy and very fluid and smooth, and he was just...
Objection, Your Honor, narrative as to the response provided to the opposing counsel. I asked that the opposing counsel break up the extended question, extended response to the question into.
I can do so, Your Honor.
Is objected to second question.
I will take a step back to the jury. When did you first get Elias?
I got Elias in 2013 when he was about 6 years old from a sanctuary in South Carolina.
Now, what kind of work did you do for Elias?
We worked on TV appearances, movie appearances, and we were starting a new series of educational YouTube videos to kind of teach kids and the general public about chimpanzees and their behaviors and things that they like to do.
Now, Ms. Kozak, as you've been in court all today, a particular appearance Elias has been discussed, and I want to hear your testimony about it. Can you tell us a little bit about Elias and your appearance on Byron Fellows' safari trip?
So we appeared on Byron Fellows in 2015. And the trick that we had planned was that Elias would throw fruit at Byron Fellows. During the trick, Byron Fellows started to yell at Elias or try to get into a fake fight with him. And because Elias is a chimpanzee, he doesn't necessarily know how to tell the difference between a real fight and a pretend fight. So he got agitated and started to scream.
Were you able to calm Elias down during this event?
Yes, I was able to calm him down after 15 minutes, but everything was fine.
Now, I want to shift our focus to your appearance on the Midlands after dark. Aside from properly training Elias for his appearance in the trick he was going to be doing, did you take any other steps in order to prepare?
Yes, so I sent MTS my safety guidelines, which I do for every performance that Elias has appeared on.
Would you recognize a copy of those guidelines if I showed them to you?
I would, yes.
On the record of my time approaching opposing counsel, which has previously been entered as Exhibit 23, and I asked for permission to set up a demonstrative.
Proceed.
Your Honor, permission to reposition myself while they use the demonstrative?
Grant.
Yes, sir. Look for the report time approaching the witness. Exhibit 23. Now, Ms. Kozak, to the best of your knowledge, were these guidelines followed by MTS?
From what I believe, I don't believe that they were followed, no.
Now, I want to go over some of the specific rules that may have been broken. Number 4, give us time to settle. Do you believe that this rule was followed?
No, I don't. Normally, Elias and I like to explore this stage that he'll be working on, just so that he can familiarize himself with the places that he'll be. It helps to ease him in a little bit. But at MTS, we were mostly confined to the dressing room and green room. And when I asked an intern if he had time to explore the stage, he said that there was no time on the schedule for it.
What about rule number 15? Make sure everyone has read this handout. Do you believe this rule was followed?
No, I don't.
What about rule number 13?
Objection, Your Honor, lack of personal knowledge to the previous question. Do you know if everyone had read this handout?
Your Honor, my client has been in trial all of today and can testify to what she's heard and also what she's been made aware of throughout the events of these proceedings, and can simply testify to her rational case perception and her own personal knowledge.
Your Honor, may I be on that?
Actually, no, that's fine. Objection sustained.
Move to strike the previous question and answer for the record.
So,
Now, what about rule number 13? Do not add Elias on.
To me, this was the most concerning thing that I saw. When Elias was already agitated, I saw Alex Grace reach out to touch Elias, and that's when he jumped from his chair.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the beginning of June 29th. What happened when you first arrived on set?
Elias and I were shown to our dressing rooms, and then Alex Grace came to greet us.
What did Alex Grace seem like when you first were speaking with her?
When I first spoke to him, he seemed not all the way there. He was.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Your Honor, my witness may speak to her own rational case perception.
objection.
Could you re-ask the question?
Yes. How did Mr. Grace seem when you first spoke to him?
So when I first spoke to him, he seemed not all the way there. He was kind of slurring his words and stumbling, and he smelled like alcohol.
Now, did you speak with Mr. Grace?
Of course, I explained about the sanctuary and about me and Elias, and we talked a little about the trick that we were planning to perform that day.
Did Mr. Grace have any questions about the trick or appearance?
Yeah, and again, that was really concerning. He asked if he could get into a fake fight with Elias or put him on his lap. And that was really concerning to me because you're never supposed to do that with a chimpanzee. And so I told him that no, that was not okay, that he should not touch Elias.
And how did Mr. Grace respond to you telling him that?
He just said that he wanted to do something to spice up the trick and make it more interesting for the ratings.
Now, I want to shift over to the actual events of the rehearsal. Can you tell us how the rehearsal first began?
So the rehearsal began as planned. Elias and I walked onto the stage and we sat in the chairs next to Alex Grace. We started the interview by chatting a bit, kind of setting up what was going to be happening, and after we made sure that Elias was comfortable in his chair, I got up and left the stage, like what was agreed upon with Alex Grace.
Now, how did things go after you had walked away from the stage?
Everything was going smoothly. I was doing hand signals, and Elias was responding to those hand signals, but then he got agitated and stood up in his chair and started to scream.
Were you able to calm Elias down after he became agitated?
As I was about to, Alex Grace reached out towards Elias, and that's when he jumped out of his chair and attacked Chris Felipano.
What did you do?
Elias attacked Chris, and then he ran into a sound booth, and I ran after him, and I shut the door to make sure that Elias wouldn't get out. And then I waited for the police to come.
Now, Ms. Kozak, when Elias or any chimpanzees having a startle reaction or seems agitated, should anyone move towards the animal?
The most important thing is to remain calm and keep the environment stable so that the chimpanzee has time to relax. And that didn't happen because Alex Grace reached out towards Elias, and that's when he attacked.
Now, Ms. Kozak, do you know what ended up happening to Elias?
Elias was shot and killed by the police after the attack.
Thank you. No further questions. Permission to keep instructing the officer.
Your Honor, may I use it during my cross-examination?
Yes.
Then I will request, may I stay in the well and be able to you?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Morning, Ms. Cosette.
Good morning.
Now, let's talk about something you found in your examination, that there were violations of your guidelines, specifically you were talking about fees, correct?
That's correct.
Now, you believe that these guidelines were violated,
I do, yes.
and it's your expectation that if you're going to perform, your guidelines must be followed, correct?
That's correct. Elias has appeared on multiple TV and media appearances before, and every time I've given the guidelines, and every time they've been fine, they've been followed and nothing has gone wrong. But when I appeared on MTS and these guidelines were violated, that's when somebody was hurt.
Ms. Costa, do you believe these guidelines were violated prior to the beginning of the rehearsal, but you still decided to appear on the show? Is that right?
It was a rehearsal, so we were going to be practicing.
Ms. Costa, is that a yes to my question? You believe your guidelines were violated, but yet you still wanted to appear on the show?
I didn't know that some of the guidelines were violated until after they were violated. I saw them being broken in the present time.
So Ms. Costa, was it prior to the rehearsal or after the rehearsal when you found out about the...
Asked and answered.
Your-
The overall thing, that's your question.
Was it prior to the rehearsal as you previously stated, or after the rehearsal as you're stating now?
It was throughout the whole thing.
But at no point did you decide to pull out of the rehearsal?
It was the combination of,
Ms. Costa, yes or no, at no point did you decide to pull out of the rehearsal?
at no point did I decide to pull out of the rehearsal, no.
Your Honor, may opposing counsel please construct the demonstrative. Permission for, I may ask that opposing counsel to construct the demonstrative.
Sure, yes.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
understand.
Now, let's talk about your communications with Midland Zagadar prior to appearing on the show.
Okay,
You came in contact with Mr. Grace initially, correct?
that's correct.
You sent him an email in January of 2016, does that sound right?
Yes,
Now, after that, you followed up with 2 more emails, a total of 3 emails, is that right?
yes. Alex never answered my emails, the initial ones, which I thought was a little unprofessional, so I wanted to continue to ask.
You recognize a chain of the emails between yourself and Midland Zagadar and Alex Grace, correct?
Yes, I would.
That they record reflect on approaching opposing counsel with previous remarks at 6 and Exhibit 8. The record reflect on approaching the bench with Curtis copy. 6. Oh, this one. Let the record reflect on reading the witness, a copy of the 8 and Exhibit You recognize these as the email chains between yourself and Mr. Grace, correct?
Yes, I do.
And these are fair and accurate copies of the originals.
They seem to be so.
Plaintiff moves into Exhibit 6 and Exhibit 8 equally.
Yes, I object to hearsay.
Your Honor, pursuant to the news events 801, here's the United States being offered to the truth of the matter. Asserted in this case, we are offering the statement from Ms. Kosak for the truth of the matter, which would fall under the party opponent exclusionary rule from hearsay. And we will be redacting the statement by my client, Mr. Alex Grace.
If they are not offering Alex Grace's statement, then I would request that those constructively be removed from the exhibit.
And you have redacted.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to draw your attention to Exhibit 6.
The objection overruled
Yes, Your Honor.
with stipulation of redaction.
Of course, Your Honor. I'd like to direct your attention to Exhibit 6, the front page, label number 1 at the bottom paragraph. Now, this was the last time you came in communication with Mr. Grace prior to him responding, is that right?
Yes.
And the date is January 8th, 2017.
Yes, it is.
Now, on this day, you made it clear that you desperately needed to appear on Mr. Grace's show, isn't that right?
I did say that I needed to appear.
Well, in fact, you said that you needed to appear so badly that this appearing on his show could literally save your sanctuary and your career. Isn't that right?
My animal sanctuary had been experiencing a little bit of an economic downturn. We had recently expanded and we're treating some animals with some very serious medical issues. So we were expending more money to help animals than we were bringing in.
But yes, you needed to appear because you believe it could save your sanctuary and your career.
Yes, it could have saved my sanctuary and helped my animals.
Now, on Exhibit 8, you discussed the conditions about appearing on the show. You were informed that that Elias needed to appear on the show with you, or if not, you couldn't appear. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And your response to this was, I'll make sure Elias is there, no matter what.
I did say that in these emails.
Permission to retrieve document and publish the jury. Now, you said this, you meant that you would have the chimpanzee, even if it meant that you did not complete the chimpanzee's training prior to the event. Isn't that right?
I don't think it meant that I wouldn't complete the training.
Let's talk about that. You didn't complete the chimpanzee's training, did you?
I think in the sense that Elias was trained for safety and a trained and experienced performer, then yes, I did complete the training.
Is it your testimony today that you completed the training that you were for the tricks you were going to perform on June 29, 2017?
No, it's not my testimony that I completed the training for the tricks, but it is my testimony that I completed the training for Elias overall as a performer.
As a matter of fact, you did not disclose that you did not complete the training to anybody on set, did you?
No,
You failed to disclose that to Mr. Graves.
I didn't think it was of his concern.
You didn't think it was his concern to know that the chimpanzee that would be on set with him was not fully trained?
Elias was trained for safety and had 18 previous successful performances.
Thank you for that answer, Ms. Kosak. Bringing me back to my question. You didn't think it was necessary to inform Mr. Graves that the chimpanzee he was going to be performing with was not fully trained? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now, talking about your experience as an animal trainer performer. Now, you've been training Elias specifically for about 4 to 5 years, right?
That's correct.
During those 4 to 5 years, you appeared on 18 different sets,
Yes.
7 with live audiences,
Mm-hmm.
2 movies.
Yes.
So it's fair to say that you were highly experienced in this field.
Yes, me and Elias were both very experienced performers.
Ms. Kosak, look, you always followed the same protocol, didn't you?
Yes.
But on the 19th time, you did things differently, didn't you?
I just hadn't fully completed Elias's training.
But not only that, but you didn't put a harness on Elias, something that you always usually do. Isn't that right?
Sometimes I put a harness on Elias and sometimes I didn't. For this trick, if he wanted to appear as a regular guest on the show, a harness would have ruined that appearance. And this was the trick that I had agreed upon with Alex Grace.
But on your guidelines, it specifically says that Elias is going to have a harness and no one is to touch it, correct?
It does say that.
And you did not have a harness tag.
Like I said, it depends on the trick we're doing. The trick I had
I'm
agreed.
simply asking for a yes or no. Did Elias have a harness?
Objection, Your Honor. I would ask that opposing counsel let my witness finish her testimony before interrupting.
Commissioner respond,
No objection.
Now, yes or no? Elias was supposed to have a harness and he did not have a harness on that day.
It's my discretion of whether or not to put a harness on Elias. He didn't have one that day because it would have ruined the appearance of the trick that I had agreed upon with Alex Grace.
Well, let's talk about other things you did. This was also the very first time that you were performing those tricks in front of anyone, correct?
It was the very first time we performed those tricks using hand signals. Elias was very familiar with the tricks regarding using voice commands. So he was familiar with the tricks.
But this was also the first time that you decided to walk away from Elias during a brand new performance. Isn't that right?
We've been practicing with me at a distance.
Yes or no? This was the first time that you performed these tricks and walked away from them, correct?
This was the first time that I performed the hand signals with the tricks and was not approximately near Elias.
When you walked away from Elias, you walked away 20 feet, correct?
More or less, yes.
You put the riders in between yourself and Elias.
I still had a direct line of sight to Elias.
Is it correct that you put the riders between yourself and Elias?
They may have been standing in front of me.
And during the moment of the attack, when Elias ran, he ran towards you, correct?
You could say that.
But he got to the riders first.
Yes.
Well, you understand that having a wild animal on set is inherently dangerous, correct?
You have to be careful when working with animals, yes.
As a result, you designed your own guidelines to make sure that everyone knew just how dangerous it was.
Yes, and on every occasion where my guidelines were used and followed correctly to exactly what they said, everything went fine, but not in this case.
Ms. Kozak, knowing this, you brought a chimpanzee you could not control, didn't you?
I could control Elias. He was trained for safety and had been on multiple sets before where nothing was wrong, except in this case where the guidelines were broken and Alex Grace provoked him by reaching out.
Ms. Kozak, let's talk about Elias' demographics. Elias was a 10-year-old chimpanzee, right?
That's correct.
And you heard during Dr. Hawkins' testimony that this is much older than the average performance chimpanzee.
Chimpanzee performance ages can range, but
Objection, non-responsive. I'm asking her a yes or no question. She should not be non-responsive.
Please answer the question.
it's typically older, yes.
You heard Dr. Hawkins' testimony say that he was much older than the average chimpanzee, performance chimpanzee.
I did hear that in court today.
And as a result, he had developed adult canines,
Yes,
adult muscles,
yes,
which made him much stronger than the average human.
yes.
And in an event of startle reaction, you believe that you could not stop him. Isn't that right?
Yes.
In fact, Ms. Kozak, you thought that if you tried to stop Elias, he would have killed you too. Isn't that right?
I believe that it's dangerous to try and provoke a chimpanzee to startle reaction.
Ms. Kozak, yes or no? You believe that if you tried to stop Elias during his attack, he would have killed you too.
I believe that.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive. This is a yes or no question.
Please answer the question.
I believe that is possible.
No, you believe that you would have met the same fate as Chris if you tried to stop him.
I may have said that.
And Chris is dead.
Chris is dead. That's why we're in court today.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Brief redraft, Your Honor. A brief redraft, Your Honor. Was Elias prepared for his appearance on the Who's After Dark?
Like I've said before, Elias was a very seasoned performing chimpanzee. He had been accustomed to sets and was trained for safety. So I believe that he was ready to perform.
Has Elias had successful performances in the past?
Yes, over 18 successful performances.
And Ms. Kozak, is a chimpanzee or any wild animal for that matter ever fully done being trained?
we're always continuously updating the training as the animal grows and matures, and we're always making sure to reflect the utmost safety for the people that he will be performing with.
Do you believe if the rules had been followed, everything would have been safe?
Yes, I do believe that if my guidelines had been stuck to, everything would have been fine.
Thank you. No further questions, John.
Recross, Your Honor.
Yes. Go ahead, proceed.
Ms. Kosak, the opposing counsel asked you if you believe that Elias was fully prepared, correct?
Yes,
But you just stated on cross-examination that you hadn't even completed his training, didn't you?
I hadn't fully transitioned to a fixed ratio for the hand signal trick.
Yes or no, you hadn't, you just stated on cross-examination, you had not even completed his training.
I hadn't completed the final step of his training.
Yet you're still saying that he was fully prepared.
He was prepared in the sense that he was prepared for safety.
And then opposing counsel asked you if the guidelines would have been followed, everything would have been okay, correct?
Yes,
But yet you claim the guidelines were violated, but you didn't pull out of rehearsal, Ms. Kosak, isn't that right?
I couldn't pull out of the rehearsal as Alex Grace was reaching for Elias and egging on for Elias because it was happening in the moment.
Ms. Kosak, your chimpanzee was screaming far before anything else had occurred, isn't that right?
It was a new environment for him, but yes, he was screaming.
No further questions.
I asked them my witness to be allowed to come out from the stand.